them offline. There you go. I need to chat. Does this work? Man. Stream info. How the hell did this work? Use the stream manager to manage the chat, stream, and all that stuff. Okay, fine. Got 7 viewers. Hello. I'm trying to get the damn chat to be working on this thing. How does this work? Oh. Okay. There we go. Anyone there? Anyone chime in? Someone type something in. Okay, now I can have a clip. Anyone? I'm gonna type something. Hey. Can I bring up the damn keyboard? Wait a minute, maybe this works. Hold on here. Alright, can I type in a hello? Someone gotta chime in. Anyone there? Someone gotta chime in. I think there's like a minute delay or something. Hey, Orders, how are you? Excellent. Excellent. Alright, you know the drill. Audio check, mic check, check 1, 2. Hey, cameras man, how are you? Video. Are we good? Are we all good? Hey, Highway. Hello. How do we sound? How do we look? Well, let me get my water. Good. Okay. We're ready to go. Hello, everyone. Yes, welcome. We're already into episode number 3. Episode number 3, season 11. Introduction to Security at Tufts University. I'm Ming Chow, teaching professor. Yeah, these are all hands-on Twitch streams. And today I'm going to train you to be spies. Yeah, I'm going to train you all to be spies. We're going to do information gathering, also known as reconnaissance. That's a formal term. But yeah, you're going to be basically be trained to be spies. But before we do that, want to get some terminology. And here I am. I am on this page right now that it's on LockheedMartin.com. I'll send a link. I'll copy this. Let me send it over to you folks. There you go. I can post links, which is good. And I want to introduce you to this concept better known as a cyber kill chain. Now, a lot of concepts and terminologies in cybersecurity were derived from the military. Okay? The cyber kill chain is a model that is used to identify and prevent any cyber intrusion activities. So this can be used for good and bad. But it's a way. Is it perfect? No, nothing is perfect. It's a way to think about what attackers need to do when they're trying to break into computer systems. And the model is 7 steps. The cyber kill chain involves 7 steps. Step number 1 is reconnaissance. Reconnaissance can be low-tech or high-tech. High-tech ways of reconnaissance are things like getting information through LinkedIn, through conference pamphlets, harvesting email addresses, What else? There are things like, oh, of course, social media. That's a huge one these days. You can also go low tech. Low tech means no technology involved. A very common one, which people still do, is go into the back of dumpsters and look for information. So a good example is GameStop. When they closed a whole bunch of stores recently, people just rummaged through dumpsters and found they found old receipts, like unopened boxes, games, list goes on. Step number 2 in the cyber kill chain is weaponization, coupling exploits, uh, and delivering a payload. 3 is delivery of the usually malicious bundle, usually by way of email, also known as phishing, malicious website, the USB stick. Step number 4 is exploitation. An exploit, not exploitation, is a piece of software. Exploitation is taking advantage of a vulnerability on a victim system to do malicious things. Step number 5 is installation of malware. Once you have broken in, step number 6 is command and control. Once you have installed malware on your target, you can do all sorts of, masters of puppets work. For manipulation of the victim, funnel data in and out of the system to you. Step number 7 is actions on objectives. What that means is, okay, you've accomplished a goal. Now you have to take a look at what you do, maintain access, list goes on. So this is a framework to think about how attackers, achieve their objectives. Let's say, for example, an unfriendly country or an adversary wants to break into certain system. This is, the framework to follow. By far and away, the most important step is the first one. Reconnaissance, information gathering. When you're building a house, you have to have a plan. You have to have a blueprint. Like anything, when you're going into battle, you have to have a blueprint. You have to actually have, you just can't go and just go guns a-blazing on any battlefield. You can't, write a good computer program without having a solid plan, things written down, gathering all the information that you need, requirements. Same idea in cybersecurity when you are the attacker or when you are the defender. Okay, you have to know what's going on. You have to gather all the information. And so today we're going to focus on number 1, reconnaissance, harvesting information, getting all the information that we can. That's it. We're not going to do any exploitation, no delivery, and we're not going to write phishing email. We're going to gather information. And gathering information, is such a critical step into doing anything with cybersecurity. And these days there's so many options to do so. So this is the cyber kill chain, and here is the plan for today. I talked about cyber kill chain, but now we want to gather information about target. What kind of information? Okay, then we're going to look into the tools that we can use, the pros and the cons. And we're going to work with some real targets here. Okay, so we've done the cyber kill chain. That's done. So here's a little motivation for you. Here are the target IP addresses that we're going to work with today. I have 2 targets. We have 2 targets, or when you think of it this way, 2 victims here. The first target is local on my home network, not publicly available, only available to me at my home network. The IP address of this target is 192.168.1.18. We'll also have another target that is publicly available, which you can play along as well. And that is IP address at 3.23.79.116. That's a real target. So now, before we go use any of the tools, what kind of information do we want to gather about these targets? Like, here are your victims. This is what we're gonna try to gather as much information as we can before attacking these 2 systems. And you have the written permission to do so. I'm saying that right now. What kind of information do you want to gather about these targets? Anything. You chime in. What kind of information do you want to get? Let's speak in English, and the information that we want to gather is, let's use plain language. Go ahead. What kind of information? Another way to think about this is also, think about what we've learned so far. It's been 3 weeks. What have you learned so far? Like, tell me something. Okay. I like that one. Blackmail material. Where are they located? Okay, what else? Come on. What information do we want to gather? We have blackmail material, if there's any. Hey, I mean, we always want to get blackmail information. We always do that. Bank account, okay. Really is like, what kind of data? That really belongs to part 1, What else? Ooh. Okay, what else? Something more concrete. We're talking about these targets here, these IP addresses. We have the IP addresses. We don't know what kind of devices they are. What other information you want to gather? Anything? Where they located is a big one. What else? Ooh. Well, that's 2. Orders 1, 2, 3. You really talk about 2 things. Device specs. Be a little bit more specific what you mean by device specs. Go ahead. Vulnerabilities. What do you mean by device specs? Be a little bit more specific. Output operating system. Okay. Really is. Actually, I kind of blew that one away. Okay. Ooh, okay. 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 Software version. Okay, what else? Is it mobile? What else? What else? Ooh, there you go, from Tufts House, yes. Port. Open ports, which will really actually translate into software versions. Okay. I like that one from Tufts House. Open ports can give you a lot of information about software versions, software running, list goes on. Anything else anyone want to add? Now add one, a very dumb and rudimentary one, is a very basic question. Are the targets even up and running? Alive? Okay? Anything else anyone want to add to this? Maybe what sort of cybersecurity can they do? Ooh. Can they detect you? Really, you know what? Orders is that's a good one. Really is you can infer. You know what? That can they detect you? Attack you back? You can infer that from software running software versions. You can infer that from open ports software version because they may have like monitoring software running on firewalls based on open ports. So yeah, what kind of cybersecurity or lack thereof the target has? That's a very good one. But that falls under open port software running software versions. Anything else? Okay. So why don't we do this? For today, we're going to do basically we're going to try to answer. We're going to answer all these questions. Uh, yeah, we're gonna. The only one that the only one that we're not going to answer is maybe the pattern of users is going to be the most difficult one. That's a psychological question. Um, well, we can do patterns of users. We actually could. So I'm gonna save this. I'm gonna reserve this. I'm gonna save this because this is gonna be like a 1.5 day session, but we're gonna get to the most important part today. The patterns of users, not today, but ideally do it next week. Where are they located? Blackmail material, data, financial, password we can do. The device specs, the big ones are going to be the device specs, the operating system, the open port, server vulnerability, server information, and then the target's even up and running or not. So yeah, let's answer all these questions, everything that we just put together. This is a good list. This is a very good list. So let's deal with number where they located. So what tools can we have? Let's answer this question first. Let's answer the where they located. There are a number of ways that you can get where they located. One way is, and let's use this IP address, 3.23.79.116. So you have an IP address. If you remember from lab number 1, the first lab of this course, which is Linux command, what tool did you use to get information on an IP address? I'm gonna fire up my terminal right now, but what tools did you use to gather information about an IP address? Anyone remember? What can you use? And from that, you can also get like where they located. What kind of tool can you use? Anyone chime in? No one? All right. Man, Whois? Whois is an internet directory, domain name, and network number directory service. Yes, the highway said Whois. Yeah, I think there's like there's a 1 minute delay. But how you use Whois is type Whois space and then an IP address. Whois is built into most systems. Mac OS, like you do have to install it on like separately these days. But how you use Whois is Whois space the IP address and hit enter. And here we go. We can see that this IP address at 3.23.79.116 belong to Amazon Technologies. Here's Amazon Technologies, headquarter information. You can see email addresses, contact information. This yeah. You can use curl as well. You can do something called the Google. So you do a search for like Whois, even if you don't have it on your own computer, you can do a Whois search, punch it in, get very similar, not same, similar results. Okay? But that's what Whois does. What Whois is going to do is just going to give you directory information. It's just going to give you but nothing like technical, nothing on what the IP address is running. It's not even going to tell you, um, if that IP address is actually up or down. Think of it this way: it's like almost feels like a reverse lookup of a telephone number. So you punch in an IP address, you just get basic information like directory information. That's all whois will do, but it's not going to answer the bigger questions such as device specs, what operating system is running, the open port, the server vulnerabilities, and are the targets even up and running? Not going to answer those questions. Okay, so whois is pretty limited. It gives you back good information, directory information, but nothing really like technical about that specific IP address. Let's look at this question. Are the targets even up and running? Are the targets even up and running or alive? Now, the question is it even up and running? That's all we want to know. And the tool to do that, to check if a computer is up or running or not, is called ping. P-I-N-G. Ping is built into every single system in the world. So, man ping. So ping, how it works is this. Ping works like, is anyone familiar with submarines here? Anyone familiar with submarines and sonars? How does how does sonars actually work? I'm gonna fire up Wireshark. I'm gonna fire up Wireshark for a very good reason, and I'm gonna capture on. I'm not using Wi-Fi today, so I'm using. So now this is, by the way, this is all the traffic. This is a Twitch stream, so this is all the Twitch stream traffic. But I want to filter out. I don't want to have all this running, but I want to filter out something called ICMP. ICMP is the formal name for ping. ICMP is better known as the Internet Control Message Protocol. ICMP, also known as ping, lives in layer 3 of the OSI model, IP layer. It does not have anything to do with ports. So the Internet Control Message Protocol, the short term is ping, but all it's used to do is to check if an IP address is up and running or not. That's all ICMP or ping does. Okay? So submarines, how submarines work is if they want to see if there's an object in front, you ever hear the ping and pong? So submarines, if they want to check if there's an object, like, close by, it'll send a signal, a wave, that goes ping. And if there is something in front, it'll get a response that is like pong, coming back and hitting the submarine. So once you hear a pong, that means there's something in front. If you send a ping and you don't get a response back, then you're clear. So the thing you're looking for is a response, a pong back. That's how ping actually works. So how you use ping is you type ping and then an IP address, in this case 3.23.79.116. And interestingly enough, it's getting timed out. And there's a very good reason why a lot of servers these days, if you're gonna have a server that is up and running and available for the public, you're gonna get the timeout. There's a very good reason for this, which you will learn about next week. And this is the reason why I like to have I like to use like a home lab or something so I can show you what goes on. So as you can see in Wireshark, it says there's a whole bunch of ping requests, but there's no response. My local IP address is 192.168.1.218, and when I try to send a ping out to all the 3.23.79.116, I do not get a response. So in essence, you may think, oh, wait a minute, does that mean the server is dead? Maybe. Maybe 3.23.79.116 is not up and running or not. Now, how it really supposed to work, it looks like this. So I'm going to clear the screen and do a ping 192.168.1.18. And this is the server on my home network. Watch what happens. So I'm going to set ping 192.168.1.18. And now I got a whole bunch of pongs back. And now look at every request that is made, I get a reply. Every request that I make, I get a reply. 13 packets transmitted, 13 packets received, 0% packet loss. So what this is saying is 192.168.1.18 is definitely a computer that is up and running on the network. 100%. 100% is working. Okay? So this is definitely a live IP address on my home network. So I'm going to actually, if I do a ping 192.168.222, for example, I don't think this is up and running or not. So I don't, on my home network, have an IP address, something that is running on 192.168.1.222. So I said host is down. Like nothing, host is down, nothing to root to. So what this is saying is there's nothing that is using the IP address 192.168.1.222. There is definitely something at 192.168.1.18 though. Definitely. Because for every single request that I send out, I get a reply. So if you take a look at how a ping packet looks like, or an ICMP packet, I use ICMP and ping interchangeably. You can see the packet information. They're very small. They're tiny. Good. Layer 3 of the OSI model is Internet Protocol version 4, source and destination IP address. But as you can see, there's nothing related to ports here. And that's correct, because layer 3 of the OSI model, which is the Internet Protocol, has nothing to do with ports. That's layer 4, Transmission Control Protocol. So you cannot ping a port. There's no way you can ping a port. That makes no sense, because ping or ICMP is layer 3 of the OSI model. And just a heads up, this is a very common cybersecurity question that gets asked to professionals. So you can't ping a port. So what this means is you can use ping to check if a target is up and running or alive. But ping will not do the job to answer questions like, what are the open ports? And ultimately, it can't find things such as like operating system, server vulnerabilities, and vulnerabilities. So ping has its use, has a very valuable use to actually see if a computer is up and running or not on a network, but it won't find like the deeper information like open ports and services and software that, that are available on a target. Can we do better though? Is there a better way? Now, okay, we know that ping and ICMP, you can't ping ports and hence can't know what services and software running. What's another option? Another option is I like to call it the grand old man, the Swiss Army knife of the internet, of the Swiss Army knife of networking, and that's better called Netcat. I'm going to shut Wireshark down. Yeah, I don't need this. And I want to introduce you to Netcat. Netcat. So Netcat to establish and test TCP and UDP connections. Okay, kind of long. But Netcat, what it is, and is generally installed on most systems, even on Mac OS by default. The command is just 2 letters, NC. You can use Netcat to read and write network connections using TCP or UDP. So unlike ping, yes, you can deal with port numbers with Netcat. And how you use Netcat is really at the most rudimentary level. Works like this. So NC is an arbitrary TCP and UDP connection and listener. Arbitrary TCP and UDP connections and listener. You can use Netcat for just about anything involving TCP or UDP. You can create a web server. You can actually write a scanner. It's very versatile. So give me a port number. So how you use Netcat is the following, is just NC, the IP address, and give me a port number. Just give me any port number. How about 22? Okay, SSH. So it's NC, space, the IP address, space, a port number. 22 is for SSH. Hit the enter key. I got a result back. Oh, interesting. SSH 2.0. That means there's an SSH server running on 192.168.1.18? Yep. Give me another port number. Anyone? Come on, someone chime in. Quiet today. Is port 22 even running for... Wait a minute. We just tried to ping this device, so we got nothing back. But what happened if we do this Netcat, the IP address at 3.23.79.116.22? Do we get anything back? What the fuck? Yeah. Wait a minute. Hold on. We just made a connection to 3.23.79.116 port 20 at port 22 using Netcat. Does this mean that the server, that this target 3.23.79.116 is up and running? Yeah, we got a response. We got a response. Again, a lot of public servers turns off ping for a very good reason, because it's so abused. Keep that in mind. So a lot of systems now turn off responding to pings because it's been so abused for so long. So I'm just going to do another one. Okay, the Super Panda says 80. So I'm going to say NC Netcat space 3.23.79.116 space 80. Okay, it's hanging. Well, it's interesting because one of the things that you need to do for web servers is you need to type a HTTP command. Let's type get. Let's see what happens. Oh! Interesting. So Netcat to 3.23.79.116 at port 80 does return something if you give it a little nudge. Interesting. How about FTP? Port 21. I got nothing on now. Okay. So hold up for a second. I want to introduce to you the Netcat cheat sheet. Cheat sheets are good. And here is a cheat sheet of Netcat published by the SANS Institute. The SANS Institute gives boot camp trainings in cybersecurity. I'm an alum of the SANS Institute. So here it is, Netcat. What it is a fundamental Netcat client. Like to go to fundamentals, it's just NC space the target IP address space the port number. So what it does is connect to an arbitrary port number at IP address, the target IP address. If you want to actually use Netcat as a server or a listener, you can do NC space minus lowercase l space minus lowercase p and then a port number of your choice. Create an arbitrary Netcat listener on arbitrary local port, whatever you want. You can use Netcat to do things like file transfer, a TCP banner grabber. You can even do like backdoor shells. The one that we are interested in is a TCP support scanner. So if you go back to here, if you want to see all the port numbers, all the ports that are open on Netcat, one of the things that you can do is NC space the IP address, whatever it is. In this case, it's 3.23.79.116, and then you just type in every single port in the world, like from 1 to 60,000. You can do a million monkey approach, or you can do a loop, which is supported in Netcat. So a port scan and IP address is netcat space minus v. I'll just do it out. There it is. NC minus lowercase v minus lowercase n minus lowercase z minus w1. And you know what? I'm just gonna try. You know what? Just for speed purpose, I'm gonna try this on my home network first. 192.168.1.8. I'm gonna scan ports 10 to 1,000. Let's see what happens. So what this will do is going to look for all the open ports numbers between 10 to 1,000 on 192.168.1.18. The minus V is for the minus little v is for voice mode. Minus lowercase n is to don't resolve the domain name. Minus lowercase z is to don't send any data. And minus W1 is waiting for no more than 1 second for the connection to occur. So it should work really fast. 10, 11, 12, 13 is connection. Okay, we're failing. Ooh, so 21 and 22, there's something on here. Okay. So it's just going to loop through port numbers 10 to 1,000 every second. After 1 second, if it fails, we move on. So as you can see, this works. We're looking for all the open ports at 192.168.1.18. It's looking very good, but you can see it's really slow. It's really slow, and we can't gather more information than just, oh, if the port is open or not. This is like really slow. Not good. Okay, but Netcat has its purpose. Netcat has a really important purpose, that is, you're given an IP address, you're given a port number, and you want to see what's going on under that port with that service that's running on the IP address and the port. Netcat is a perfect tool to do so. So you just do, let's say, for example, port 21 was open on 192.168.1.18. 2421 means there must be an FTP server that is running on 192.168.1.18. Bang. Yep. And now we just made a connection to it. Does the TCP three-way handshake under the hood. And after the TCP three-way handshake happens, the first thing that you'll get is a message, welcome to the bunghole. There you go. But Netcat will not bring back, it's not going to work fast. It's not going to bring back service information. So, is there a better tool to use than Netcat for port scanning and to identify running services? And perhaps in operating systems, and can we even find vulnerabilities? And the answer is yes. And it is now my pleasure to introduce to you one of my favorite tools and very famous tool in cybersecurity, better known as the Network Mapper, Nmap. Nmap.org. The Network Mapper, also known as Nmap, My friend Fyodor wrote it. And I want to give a shout out to Fyodor. Gordon Leon. Nmap. The network mapper. It's a free security scanner. Nmap is free, open source, and platform independent. So if you go to the Wikipedia entry, Nmap is a network scanner created by Gordon Leon, also known as Fyodor. Nmap is used to discover hosts and services on a computer network by sending packets and analyzing the response. Nmap was written 28 years ago in C. Oh yes. Again, it's platform independent. It's generally pretty easy to use on Surface. Now, again, a friendly reminder is any tool in cybersecurity can be used for both good or bad, both good and bad. Nmap is certainly one of them. Now, the other thing about, oh, here it is. So, Nmap is integral in academic activities. Okay, Nmap is very popular for years in colleges and universities. A lot of system administrators run it to check if anyone is running any illegal streaming services or not. File sharing on the university network. So a good example is back in the ye good old days when people were sharing music and videos, on the Tufts network or the university network, you get a DCMA or MPAA violation notice. I mean, that's bad. And what the system administrators at Tufts would do is they would run like Nmap on the entire university network to see who's running like file sharing services. And if they notice that a particular IP address or a computer is using, like has a particular port enabled, that means, yeah, this person is illegally sharing files. Nmap is also very famous. So Nmap, you got nmap.org. In the movies. So Nmap has been used in a number of movies. The Matrix Reloaded. That's the scene. Ocean 8. Snowden. Dread. Asylum. Fantastic Four. Really? Yep, they use Nmap. Who Am I? Born Ultimatum. Die Hard 4. Die Hard is a Christmas movie. The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. G.I. Joe Retaliation. The Listening. Justice League Doom. Didn't see that one. Abduction. Extracted. Game of Death. Battle Royale. Broken Saints. I have no idea what this is. Looks new. Hacksaw. Bloody Monday. So Nmap is a very famous tool that is used. Okay. So yes, very famous tool. It's also a very versatile tool as well. It's one of the first tools I install on any computer I actually set up. That said, Nmap, you have to install it on your own. You have to, it's not part of any Linux distribution, not part of Mac OS, not part of Windows. You have to install it on your own. On Mac OS, if you have Homebrew installed, you just do brew, install, Nmap. I already have it installed. Now, if you are on Windows, it is strongly recommended that you use the Windows binary. Or use Zenmap. It has a graphical user interface called Zenmap installed with it, which is pretty damn good. So, Windows user, you should not use the, ideally, if you're a Windows user, use a Windows binary that has Zenmap. Don't run it through the command line. I mean, you could, but it gets conflicting at times if you use WSL. Zenmap is the way to go. People are actually on the chat. This chat is really, really quiet today. So how do you use Nmap? Well, once you have Nmap installed, like I do, man Nmap. You do an man Nmap, you can see, yeah, Nmap is a network exploration tool and security / port scanner. How Nmap works is really rudimentary at the most basic level, but then it gets really you can get a real complicated Nmap scans. There's a lot, and I mean a lot of options in Nmap that were built in the last 2 decades. Okay? How you use Nmap at the most rudimentary level is just Nmap IP address, and that's it. I'm gonna run a new terminal, and I'm gonna run a second Nmap on a different. Now you shouldn't run Nmap on a target multiple times because it can really bring back wonky results and clog up the internet pipes, the network pipes. So I'm going to do Nmap the 3.23.79.116 on another tab. It does take a few seconds, but it's not going to take as long as Netcat. Sometimes you get the result really quickly. Sometimes you don't. But whatever option is going to get... Oh, shit. Nope. I thought we got back something. You do have to wait again a little bit. Sometimes it's really quick. Sometimes it's not. Again, we're doing so much on the network right now. We're doing Twitch stream. I'm doing not one, but 2 different Nmap scans on 2 different targets. Oh, shit. Whoa. Whoa. This one won. The Nmap of 3.23.79.116 beat my local network. That's strange. So here is the results. The Nmap results for 3.23.79.116. It took, how long did it take? 42.84 seconds. And here we go. Not shown a 996 filtered TCP port, but here are your results. Here are your ports, here's a state, here's a service. Ports numbers, Nmap on 3.23.79.116 returned port 22, port 80, port 443, and port 3000. State, open are 22 and 80. Closed are 443 and 3000. And of course the corresponding services. So port 22 is open and it's running SSH, supposedly. Port 80 is open, it's running HTTP. That means it's running a web server. HTTP is plain text too. Port 443 is closed. 443 is associated with HTTPS. And port 3000 is also closed. It's running, I don't know what the hell PPP is. So we have 2 open ports, 22 and 80, on 3.23.79.116. I'm shocked this is fucking still running. This is on my home network, and I do a lot on this thing. We'll let it run. So now, first and foremost, what we need to understand is, what in the world does state mean? What does state mean? Let's take a look at the manual, and let's understand what state means. Okay. Nmap, the simple Nmap command scans 1,000 TCP ports on the host target. While many port scanners have traditionally lumped all ports into open and closed states, okay? Nmap is much more granular. There are 6 states: open, closed, filtered, unfiltered, open or filtered, or closed or filtered. Here are the 6 states. What does open mean? The open state means an application is actively accepting TCP connections to UDP datagram or SCTP association with this port. To make a long story short, finding these is often the primary goal of port scanning. So you are looking for open ports. Security-minded people know that each open port is an avenue for attack. Attackers and pen testers want to exploit open ports, while administrators and defenders try to close them or protect them with firewalls without thwarting legitimate users. Open ports are also interesting for non-security scan because they show services available for use on the network. So your goal almost always, like certainly, is to look for open ports. That's what you really care about. Open ports are paramount to look for. Closed ports. A closed port is accessible but has no application listening on it. They can be helpful in showing that a host is up on an IP address and is part of a operating system detection. Because closed ports are reachable, it may be worth scanning later in case they open up. So closed is, if it's closed, it's closed. But you want to keep an eye on it one day if it opens up again. Filtered. Filtered is one of these weird ones because Nmap cannot determine whether the port is open because packet filtering prevents its probe from reaching the port. There may be, sometimes they may respond with errors and filters. You know what, that just slows down the scan. Filter, just move on. Unfiltered state means the port is accessible, but Nmap is unable to determine whether it is open or closed. Only the ACK scan, which is used to map firewall rule set, scanning these unfiltered ports and other scans may help if it's open, but move on. Open or filtered, or closed or filtered is like Nmap inconclusive. When you see open or filtered or closed or filtered, it's like, okay, it may be open or it may be closed. That's what it really means. So, to make a long story short, always, the most important thing we care about is open ports, when the state is open. And on this Nmap result here, we see there are 2 open ports for sure. Port 22, which is running SSH, and port 80, which is running HTTP. So now that you know that 3.23.79.116 has port 80 open and is running HTTP, what can you do? Someone chime in. Or it's also running SSH as well, too. But we're talking about port 80 here. If port 80 on 3.23.79.116 is running HTTP, what can you do? Tell me what's the next thing, the most logical thing you want to do. Finally, this one is up. We'll get to that. Port 80 is running on 3.23.79.116. What can you do? Look at the HTML. How you do that? More concretely, Highway. More concretely, what do you do? What does that mean? What do you want to open up? What kind of application you want to open up? Not Wireshark. You can do Wireshark, but that's way overkill. Remember what uses HTTP and HTTPS? Your web browser. So all you need to do is open up your favorite web browser, open up a tab, type in http://3.23.79.116. And you see that there is a web page running on that target. You can do this in Wireshark, but you just overcomplicated the problem. You can just use a web browser and just type in http://3.23.79.116. You can do it in Wireshark as well, but much more efficient to just do it on a web browser. We know that HTTPS is closed, so just to prove it, if you type in https://3.23.79.116, the site cannot be reached. There's no HTTPS running on the server. You also know that port SSH is open, so you could try to SSH into it, but I locked that thing down. Okay, so SSH is open. So, same idea. Let's take a look at this Nmap result, which took 231 I don't know why. It took 231 seconds and 232 seconds to do a port scan on this network. This thing is at my house. So you can see the Nmap results for 192.168.1.18 at my house return a lot of ports. 21 for FTP, 22 for SSH, 80 for HTTP, for this web server running on 192.168.1.18? Yup, it's also running HTTPS. There's a MySQL database that is running on 3306. Okay, I don't know what port 8000 is, and there's also port 8888. Well, fire up a web browser. Go to http://192.168.1.18. Okay, my connection's not private. Okay, whatever. And I'm going to proceed. And you can see https://192.168.1.18 just has a blog of financial data. Bullish. Yeah. Hey, what in the world is that port 8888? So I can do Netcat. I don't know what port 8888 is used for, but if I do 192.168.1.18.8888 and I hit enter, nothing. Okay, interesting. It looks like some sort of a web server there too. Because I just have to bang away at my keyboard. So I got http://192.168.1.18 port 8888 because it was returning something, and I'm working on a project with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts for domains of interest, fraudulent domain, activities, and their respected legitimate domain. Been working on this for a while. Cool. All right. So how does Nmap actually work under the hood? Okay, how Nmap works under the hood is this. This is a really, really good article, really good piece on the manual. Okay, imagine doing automotive repair. You can struggle for hours trying to fit rudimentary tools to the task at hand. When I fail miserably and tow my jalopy to a real mechanic, he invariably fishes around in a huge tool chest and until pulling out the perfect gizmo, which makes the job effortless. The art of port scanning is very similar. There are many different types of Nmap scans. Many types of Nmap scan. Experts understand a dozen of scan techniques and choose the appropriate one for a given task. Inexperienced users and script kiddies will always try to solve every problem with the default sync scan, SYN. Since Nmap is free, the only barrier to port scanning is mastery of knowledge. That certainly beats the automotive world where, it may take great skill to determine, yada, yada, yada. So from this paragraph, you can identify there are many different types of Nmap scans that you can do. You can also see that the default Nmap scan is a sync scan. So if you just type Nmap space the IP address, it's going to do what is called a TCP sync scan. Remember the TCP three-way handshake. The sync scan is the default and most popular scan for good reasons. Number one, it can be performed quickly, scan thousands of ports per second on a fast network, not hampered by restrictive firewall. It's also relatively unobtrusive and stealthy since it never completes the TCP connections. Sync scan also works well against, compliant TCP stacks, or specific platform which is FIN, null, Christmas tree scans, or whatever. It also allows for, reliable differentiation between the different states, open, closed, and filtered states. This technique is often referred to as half-open scanning because you don't open a full TCP connection. You send a sync packet as you were going to open up a real world connection and then wait for a response. A SYNAC indicates that the port is listening open, while an RST is indicative of a non-listener. So yes, this is why the TCP three-way handshake is really important to know, because by default, Nmap uses a TCP sync scan. Okay, now I'm going to stop there and we're going to go to stealthier scans. You know, if you want to go really undetected. One of the problems is, if you're trying to do a port scan, is it illegal? Here's the answer to that question. Is port scanning illegal? Everyone is scanning the internet every second. Everyone's doing it. Companies do this all the time. They scan the network for like every computer on the internet. Unfortunately, port scanning is real. It happens. It's not illegal. Is it weird? Yes. The problem with port scanning is it's really easy to get caught. If you're trying to port scan, let's say my server, well, not really, it's my server, but 3.23.79.116 is going to get logged. It's going to get logged. Okay? So, okay, what else can you do with Nmap? And then we're going to get to the stealthy scan. So if you go to man Nmap, you can see a lot of the results on options. I mean, the options that you can use. There is a -A flag to enable operating system inversion detection. A representative Nmap scan. Nmap minus capital A space minus capital T4 and then the IP address or the domain name. You get a pretty detailed result. Okay, so why don't we do that? Nmap minus capital A minus capital T4. What is a T4 for? T4 is for faster execution and then the host name. Okay. 192.168.118. Let's just have this running. So I'm also going to go back and do, instead of just Nmap, 3.23.79.116 minus A minus capital T4. See what happens. Let's let it run for a little bit. May take a bit. But what we're going to get back is going to be not just the port numbers, the state, the service. We're going to get back server information, operating system, targets, open ports. We're going to answer these three. Also, and also other device, maybe even device specs as well. Not bad. So this Nmap scan at Nmap minus space minus capital A minus capital T4 is going to return like server information, open ports, including the software and software versions running, an operating system. Yes, it will do operating system detection. It's going to take a while. So I'll just let this run. I'll let this run. Okay? It does take a bit. Okay? How do I detect a remote operating system? There you go. How can I... Very a common question. It's possible to detect the operating system type remotely from another system using a tool like Nmap without admin privileges? Of course you can. There's a couple of options. There's minus capital O. Okay, but sometimes you get fake results and you do an aggressive scan. Can be detected and blocked by a firewall as sudo nmap minus capital A. Now EN0 is the interface that should contain the IP address and MAC address. Yeah. Config. We're not even using interface. We don't even need to use interfaces here. In this case, where the fuck am I? I'm using EN5 because I'm hardwired right now for streaming. EN0 is my Wi-Fi, so that's 110. Yeah. So if you're using Wi-Fi on your Mac, it's going to be EN0. I know I'm using EN5 for mine. Oh, wait a minute. We got results back already? Nice. Nice. Okay, so here it is. Nmap minus capital A minus capital T4, 3.23.79.116. That's the result back. So now you can see the results are much, much more deeper. Port number, the state, the service, and now you can see the version number, the software version. Port 22, open SSH is a service and is using Open SSH 9.6 on Ubuntu. Okay. Port 80 is open. HTTP web server. The web server software that's being used is Nginx 1.2.4.0. 1.24 1.24.0. Ditto with, 443 is closed, 3000 is also closed. And here it is. The operating system is clearly a Linux. It looks like it's pretty sure it's a Linux system. Good. So, 4 ports, 2 open, 2 closed, Linux system. And you can see the software of the SSH server and the HTTP server. Nginx 1.24.0. Okay. Oh, we got results back for this one too. Here you go. The Nmap for 192.168.1.18 minus the aggressive option minus capital A minus capital T4. Port 21, FTP, VSFTP, D 2.0.8 or later. 22 is using OpenSSH 9.2, Debian, okay. HTTP web server. Oh, that's an outdated web server? I guess so. No, or is that the latest one? No, it's using Nginx 1.29.1, so it looks like this is a later, my web server is using a later server. 443 is also using SSL, HTTP, Nginx 1.29.1. Can also determine that there's a WP-admin folder, that the website title is Market News and Sentiment. Port 3306, MySQL is open and is using MariaDB 12.0.2. Very interesting. Holy shit. Interesting. Both port 80, 8000, and 8888 are both. What is 8000? I have no idea what. Okay, I think this is safe for work. Hope I don't get into trouble for this. I don't know what the hell. Yeah. Alright, whatever, I'll deal with that afterwards. Port 8000 and 8888 looks like they both are websites because they say HTTP title somewhere. Port 8000, a site doesn't have a title. Port 8888 is a web server and running Python. Cool. Okay. And the operating system is Linux under the hood. Alright, not bad. So now you know how a basic Nmap scan works, TCP sync scan, but we also now have how you can actually use Nmap to determine software versions and the operating system of the target. So we just answered 2 of the questions here. Actually, 2 of the questions here. Open port, server information, actually 3. Operating system is the target running on. Okay? So we've done all this. I'm going to talk about stealthy scans right now. Stealthy scans. Now, one of the problems with just doing a TCP sync scan is that if you do a TCP sync scan, a lot of systems out there record and know what you're doing. Is there a way that you can sort of fly under the radar and be stealthy? And the answer is yes. Okay? The answer is yes. You can be a little bit more stealth, be under the radar. And Nmap has a way I don't need this anymore. You can do most of lab number 3 now. There are 3 types of stealthy scans. It's called TCP No, TCP Fin, and TCP Xmas and Christmas tree scans. These 3 types of scans exploit a subtle loophole in the TCP request for comments. This document here, it's a long document, old document, written in December or September of 1981, specifies how transmission control protocol works. This document here, give you a copy. You don't have to read it, but it's good to skim over. Requests for comments are great, especially if you really want to know the underpinnings of how the internet protocols work. This is a specification. Think of it this way, it's a glorified design document. It's a glorified design document. This looks like the OSI model right here, Communication Network Internet Protocol, TCP, higher level. I like this a lot. Okay, but there's a subtle loophole in this document. It's on page 65. You have to scroll. Anyway, on page 65 of this document that reads something like, if the destination port state is closed, an incoming segment not containing a RST causes an RST to be sent in response. Then the next page discusses packets sent to the open port without the sync RST and or ACK bit stating, you are, quote, you are unlikely to get there, but if you do, drop the segment and return. Okay? So what this means is this. If you remember the basic TCP scan, a basic sync scan, it says a sync ACK, a SYN-ACK, indicates that a port is listening. That means open. While an RST, if you get an RST back, that means it's indicative of a non-listener. That means get out. If you receive an RST, that means get out of here. If you don't get an RST, that means it may be running. So again, an incoming segment. Think of an incoming segment as like a packet not containing RST causes an RST to be sent in the response. Then the next page discusses packets sent to open ports without SYN, RST, or ACK bits. So here are the TCP flags. The TCP flags are the following. There it is. In TCP connection, flags are used to indicate particular state of connection. Most commonly used are SYN, ACK, and FIN. Each flag corresponds to 1-bit information. There is SYN, which you have known, there's ACK you know, there's FIN that you know. Now you've also known RST. But there's also, I don't know what WND are, but the two big ones are PSH and URG. Interesting. So sync, ACK, RST, FIN, urge, and push. These are the 6 TCP flags. You know sync, you know ACK, you know RST now, you know FIN. So the 2 flags that we've never used before are PSH and URG. Okay? But the documentation said packets sent to open port without SYN, RST, or ACK. So of the 6, SYN, ACK, and RST, so the one that we use are FIN, push, and urge. So we can create a packet that has FIN, push, and urge. And if we get an RST back, after sending a packet that has like FIN, push, or urge, can't use these 3, that means get out of here, nothing here. But if you don't actually have an RST in response, maybe there is something out there. So the 3 types of stealthy scans are no, FIN, and Christmas tree. You have to use root. You have to be temporary root or sudo to run these scans. I'm going to go to Wireshark now. I am going to, I'll just open this. But notice what I am going to do. I'm going to go IP. I'm just going to filter out. I'm going to use more. I'm going to just only show packets that have 192.168.1.18. You'll see what I mean. I'm going to clear my screen. And I am going to do, the first one I'm going to do is something called a fin scan. Fin scan is going to send packets that's only going to have TCP packets that's only have the fin flag. Sudo Nmap minus lowercase s capital F 192.168.1.18. I'm going to hit the enter key now. Then enter my password. Gonna do the Nmap and now look at Wireshark. Bang. I have a whole bunch of open filtered results. This result should look very similar to a straight Nmap scan of 192.168.1.18, the default sync scan. It looks very similar. The biggest difference is the state. Instead of just being open, it's open or filtered now, if you do the stealthy scan. Now you take a look at the Nmap, the Wireshark packets. Notice, here it is. My IP address is 192.168.1.18. The target is 192.168.1.18. So notice my computer is sending a fin packet to port 5900. I don't get anything back. Or do I? Yes, I do, right here. So initially it's going to send out a fin packet to 59, 22, 23, 113, port 143, port 1723, port 199, you get the idea. And I'm going to get an RST back for port 5900, 23, 113, 143. So 192.168.1.18 is going to send an RST back for ports 5900, 23, 113, and 143. That means there's nothing at these ports. However, it did not send an RST back for port 22. If it does not return a RST for port 22, it's probably and most likely open. And that's why you can see opened or filtered here. And the list goes, you can see under the hood all the RSTs that get sent back from port 192.168.1.18. Port 80. Are we going to get an 80.443.7.443? Didn't send a RST back for 80 or 443, but it did send back an RST for 7443. That's why 80 and port 80 and port 443 are opened or filtered. The other stealthy scans are called Christmas tree and no scan. No scan does not set any of the bits. Christmas tree is one of my favorite because it's going to send a TCP packet with fin, push, and urge flag, lighting the packet up like a Christmas tree. I'll show you how that works. So I'll go back up. Sudo Nmap minus lowercase s capital X for Christmas tree scan. Now look at where we can. You know what? I'm gonna restart and continue without saving. Do that again. Now you can see the packets that get sent from my computer to the target 192.168.1.18 have fin, push, and urge. Fin, push, and urge, fin, push, and urge, fin, push, and urge. Same results. RST flag gets sent back from 192.168.1.18. Get out of here. Nothing there. Okay? So, this is a good way to do a stealthy scan. Now, last but not least, Showdown. I'm not going to show this on Twitch. I don't want to get banned. I'll do that next week, the very first thing. So now, you have enough to do port scanning. And Lab 3, you're using, your job is to scan a real target and to break in. See you next week, everyone.